excited.
And we are live, the show that wouldn't die. Have a beer. That's the year. We're back in lockdown, which means we're back on YouTube, streaming live.
Yes.
Me with Nick Capper.
Mate, it's crazy. I can't believe it. We're back. You know what? First you give us, then take us away.
Unbelievable.
I've just played it out on my phone as regular, as normal. I've screwed it up already. But yeah, mate, it's
wouldn't be.
This really is a saving grace. I had nothing to look forward to today, but I look forward to it now. You know, like I look forward to this today, but any other day I've just been like, ugh.
Well, happy to be of service. Look, we've got a wild ride ahead of us. For anybody who hasn't tuned in before, have a beer, guess the year, you have a beer, and I'm going to fire lots of clues to Nick Capper. And
yes,
by the end of the episode, he's going to guess the correct year, hopefully, and hopefully playing along as well. Like Craig P is playing along. We've got Mickey, we've got Emily, we've got Kelv here. We've got, I was just about the chatting to themselves like repeatedly, and I thought there were multiple people. Stuart D, Shaft Broadstem. That is a good name, isn't it?
Yes, that is a very good name.
Shaft Broadstem. Welcome, Shaft.
Welcome, Shaft. Yeah, that's
Joel C. Hello. And Sam Smalley, I'm sure Elder Taco's here. Welcome back, Elder Taco. So good.
Always here.
Look, Craig P's already jumped in, Kappa, saying, can you get us all free Slurpees?
Yeah, man. No, I don't. Man, aren't they only $1 anyway? I'll buy them for you. I'll buy you the.
What's this in reference to, Kappa, for people who don't know?
I'm in a 7-Eleven ad, a velocity points ad. So make sure you get your velocity points and spend up big, so they get me again. So yeah.
Did you have to get?
Sorry, man.
Did you have to get a 457 visa to be in that advert? Because wasn't 7-Eleven abused the 457 visa to get the staff to work for free as a central part of their business model? But anyway, 7-Eleven.
They were actually really nice. I'd like to say I'm getting paid by them and stuff, but they're actually really cool.
It's weird though. Like, it shocked me when I got to Melbourne that there was so many 7-Elevens. Like, there's so many of them. It's almost inconvenient. It's like it's like every second doorway in the city is a 7-Eleven. It's so confronting. Welcome everybody. Kelv was going to be on a flight to Biavana tonight.
Oh, what's Biavana?
It's a festival, a beer festival just for people called Kelvin, and they all meet in a remote part of New Zealand and take all the clothes off.
I'd say that there'd be a lot of Kelvins into beer. Actually, it sounds like you don't meet Kelvins very much, but they're either into beer or probably into machinery. I've met a few Kelvins that have been diesel mechanics and.
Yeah. Well, Kelvin is a scientific measurement, isn't it? Temperature.
Oh yeah, that's
Kelvins?
true.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah, I love Kelvin. Miss you, brother.
Evan OB's here as well. Welcome. Lovely to see you.
Yes.
Man, Joel C's just said, I'm just here for the 4 and 20 pies. I found out this week that 4 and 20 pies is a reference to the 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that?
I didn't know that at all.
Isn't that in just one of those things which is in plain sight, which you don't appreciate? And then it's like, that makes perfect sense because 4 and 20 probably do have blackbirds in the pie.
I thought it was a footy score or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes, Kelvin,
Guys, I've
bless
got the
you.
sneezes. I don't know why.
COVID.
And it's not refreshing my chat. I don't know what is anyone's. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not concentrating on what anyone's saying. But let's get to the beers. What are you drinking, Ian?
Well, I am drinking some H2O.
H2O. I tell you what, Ian.
Thank you. Southwest water, southeast water, whatever you call
I've
it.
been having a few beers lately, and I felt like water tonight. But I'm like, all right, I'll give in. But I did. I've been onto the red ales, the red IPAs lately as well. And yeah, I got this Red Rocks garage project, and it's very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, that is. I think is that one of the beers like similar to Stone and Wood, where they actually put the hot rocks in the brew and it caramelizes. I think I have had that in the past, and it's very good. I'm drinking tea as well, Sleepy Time tea.
Okay.
Which is in a mug, which some people might recognize.
Yeah.
Nilstat is as you can see by the clue in the picture, thrush medication. So it's delicious.
I heard you get a free mug when you buy 8 boxes of it.
That's why I'm not drinking. I'm on medication. My medication is actually methadone, not Nilstat. But anyway, we should get started with the clues, Kappa.
Yes.
Are you prepared?
I'm so excited for this. I've been thinking all day. I've been going through all the years of the calendar. You know, I've been studying every year that's been ever done. Yeah.
I'm just going to say that Mike in the chat said he had a best friend in primary school named Calvin, and we always called him the Calvinator, and he ended up becoming a fridge mechanic.
Oh, really? Yes.
And I've heard that's quite a cool job. So
yeah, the Calvinator.
Dear. Now, in this year, Kappa, the first music synthesizer. Now, you know, synth music was very popular in the 1980s.
Yes.
Were you a fan of the synth kind of new wave music?
Yeah, but I didn't get into it till later on, till I was in my 20s or whatever. That's when I really started, you know, like I tell you where I got into synth. In Chile, when I went to Chile, they love the Smiths, all that kind of new wave stuff as well. You know, New Order and all that kind of thing. Depeche Mode, they love that shit. I would go to cities in Chile and that's all they played, and I kind of got into it through there. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah,
it's weird. I used to work with a guy in the UK, and he was part of a band called This Final Frame, who were not well known at all, but they had supported some big synth new wave bands in the 80s, and they packed up their things, quit the band. It was all done. They're blokes in their like late 40s, early 50s, and they get a call from Sony BMG saying, "Would you like to make another album?" And they're like, "What? We haven't made an album for years." And they said, "Oh, because your album is currently, like one of your old albums is currently number 5 in the Filipino charts." It's like,
oh wow.
And they'd seen no money for it, but they were really popular in the Philippines and had no idea. And it was the only reason they found out was they got a MySpace page and they started getting loads of hits from the Philippines. It's like incredible. Not knowing. So that Chilean story makes sense as well. The first music synthesizer, anyway, was presented in concert at the Telharmonic Hall in New York City in this year.
Oh, now I think I've confused it with the sampler. I think the sampler was invented in Australia.
Oh,
yeah.
The sampler was, I think, quite a bit different than the music synthesizer.
Yeah, I really screwed this up, but Okay. All right. So the synthesizer. Well, that's a tough one because it could have been 70s or whatever, but then it could have been like 40s and they just didn't use it for years.
Well, this might help you as well. Carl Nessler, he does the first public demonstration of his permanent wave machine. And he does this in London. Now, are you familiar with the permanent wave machine?
That's the surfing machine, right?
No, it's your hair.
Ah,
when you get a perm. That's where it comes from.
Yes.
A permanent wave machine.
Oh, wow. A perm. Oh, man. How old are perms? I remember my mum used to get her hair permed.
I love the idea that Carl Nessler had invented the temporary wave machine.
Yeah.
And then he's like, not getting any traction with this. If only there was a way to make this permanent.
Yeah. And then you still got to go back. It's not really permanent. It's like semi-permanent. Should go for a semi-perm.
Yes, a semi-perm. Yeah. I mean, it should be half the price as well. But he does a public demonstration of this permanent wave machine in London in this year. In this year as well, a new town was founded in the state of Indiana, and it was founded by the US Steel Corporation. So they basically created a town out of nothing so that they could basically put their works there, and then also the workers would live in the town. And they called the town US Steelworks. Would you have a guess at what they might call a town? Do you think it would be something strong, that maybe it's girders or something? RSJ or something? They call it something galvanized city or something.
Yeah.
They called it
city Pipetropolis or something. Yeah.
Pipetropolis. They called it Gary.
Ah, yeah.
Gary.
My comedian friend Matt Stewart is obsessed with Gary. He mentions it a lot.
What, the town or the name?
The town. He's obsessed with this town called Gary. Yeah, he's got all the sports merchandise.
Oh,
yeah,
so good.
Yeah.
So Gary is not a popular name anymore. Used to be very popular. 2017, not giving any clues or years away here, but in 2017, there was in the UK, no children, no newborns were registered in the name of Gary. Not one.
Oh my God.
And do you know what the other name no babies are registered?
No.
Ian.
Oh, man. It is such an exotic, wild man name.
I know.
It's such a, it's got a real, kind of beat to it, a real almost Latin rhythm to it. Actually, speaking of synth, you did have Ian Curtis from Joy Division.
That's true, yeah. And what happened to him?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he wasn't a cheeriest fellow.
Yeah. He couldn't live with his name.
His music did personify the name Ian in a way.
I really want to go to the US and start a rival town called Ian next to Gary and Ian. Crazy. Now, a few really funny, strange things happened in this year. One of them was that they put a statue of a brown dog in a park in Battersea in London. Now, that's not remarkable in itself, but the story behind it is that they had, at one of the universities, they had cut open a dog to perform a live vivisection.
Ooh.
Now, the people who were doing it said the dog was sedated and wouldn't have felt anything. But the anti-vivisectionists were saying the dog could still feel and was writhing in agony and all this. And so what they did is they commemorated this dog by getting the funds together and putting a statue in a Battersea Park. But that wasn't taken very well by the people who were pro-vivisectionists. And they wanted to carry on testing on animals. And they thought that if you stop testing on animals, then you're going to basically impact on the human race, because medication and all those scientific breakthroughs that you might find out by opening animals up live will be lost. So they found this quite offensive, and they started to attack the brown dog. And there was like scuffles and riots around this brown dog, the statue. And the people who were fighting to protect the brown dog statue were, from various kind of animal rights groups, left-wing groups. And the people who were attacking the dog, they were called anti-doggers. That's what they were officially titled, was anti-doggers.
Anti-doggers. The worst type of dogging.
I mean, what a wild ride we've been on already. Synth music, perms, Gary, and doggers.
Why would you attack the dog statue? I mean, who would attack a statue of a dog? It's, even if you were against what it represents, it's the dog. A statue of a dog is cool.
Yeah, it's like we pretend like the culture war thing is like a modern phenomena. Absolutely not. it's like it's been happening for decades without giving the year away. There was a big breakthrough in sport in this year, in the sport of gridiron, because
really?
First ever legal forward pass was made this year, and it changed the game forever. It changed the way people went about tactics. It changed the demands on the players, and it also changed the shape of the ball, because as it became forward pass became more and more popular, the ball that we know now, which is like a rugby ball but very pointed at the ends, that didn't exist previously. They did just play with a rugby style ball. And so that first legal forward pass changed the sport forever in this year.
So what, were forward passes illegal before that, and it was played like rugby?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe you couldn't throw it forward. You could kick it forward. But there'd been kind of different iterations of it over the course of time, and it wasn't strongly adopted when it happened, but people realized the benefits of it, because it was quite a high risk maneuver as well, because obviously if you throw it and you lose possession, then you open up to the opposition. So I don't know a huge amount about gridiron, but that was a big breakthrough.
I wonder if gridiron did it come from rugby? Was it rugby first and then brought over?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
as if it is, passed behind. That is, everything else is a bit different, but because they've got they probably still had the field sectioned off.
Yeah, well, rugby was invented after soccer, so I'm not sure if sure of that.
It's quite a boring game to watch. I've tried to watch it. Like I'm a Kansas Chiefs fan. My co-presenter, Mike Goldstein, goes for him. So he showed me what it was once. It was all right. Like, I watched one game, it was pretty good, but I still switched off in it because
I've never been able to get into it. I never understood all the stop start, but one of my friends went to the US and said, it's perfect because the stop start is perfect for the American audience, because it means they can stop and eat, and they can also be advertised to. So whereas soccer never really took off in the US because it's just too long. There's not enough breaks in it for you to eat, drink, or consume advertising. So
that's why AFL rules. It's just so good. It's just such a great social sport. Even if you're not really into it, you can just go just chat to everybody in between the quarters. It's awesome.
Yes, 100%. Now I'm trying to keep up with the chat here.
Okay.
It pleases me deeply that we have this community of people who come together during lockdown on a Thursday night, 8:30,
Yes.
and have this chat. Welcome, Andrew, saying all Scousers, I think Andrew is referring to me, know about perms, because perms were very popular in the city I come from, particularly amongst the high-performing soccer players. The perm mustache combo, particularly fine. And we've got, Doctor Who. Craig P was saying Doctor Who theme was one of the first pieces of electronic music.
Oh.
Yeah, that is a great theme as well.
I wonder if Doctor Who would use a theremin, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
That would be a theremin, wouldn't it? Or unless they got a guy going.
Here you go. And Andrew said here, when he lived in Manchester, the UK, Ian Curtis's house was up for sale. That's it,
man. Probably a lot of people hanging around to buy it. Sorry.
Oh, gee. one careful owner. Joy, do you know how Joy Division got its name as well?
Yeah, it was from the German brothels. They'd call them Joy Divisions.
Yeah, during Nazi Germany, it was a department of the Nazi. Yeah. It's horrific, isn't it? Spandau Ballet as well was named after Spandau concentration camp.
Oh, really? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you about. It's not very pleasant. I'll tell you off air. We've also got some doggers in the
wow,
the crowd.
Dogging.
Great Forest dog. Yeah. So good. Sorry, Andrew's also said don't call it soccer. Apologies. But
apologies.
People get confused in Australia if you don't call it
soccer, mate.
Yeah. So all right. Shaft Broadstem, I think he's referring to Doctor Who. He said Michael Winslow did the vocals. I don't know.
I wonder if Michael Winslow's on Cameo. I'll ask him to do that.
Oh, that would be so good. So good. Now, one in this year, a woman by the name of Grace Brown, she was tragically murdered by her boyfriend, Chester Gillette. It's a good name, that, isn't it? Strong name.
Sounds like a killer.
She was murdered by her boyfriend, Chester Gillette. Apparently, he had previous girlfriends who said, I'm glad I didn't carry on with him. It was a close shave. So Chester Gillette provided inspiration for Jennifer Donnelly's 2003 novel, and I'm giving something away. This is before 2003, this year, called A Northern Light. Now, at the time in this year, this murder of Grace Brown was a captivating thing across America. For some reason, this murder case just captivated the public imagination. So she was like a factory worker, and he was a nephew to the owner of that factory. And they became embroiled in this relationship. And she said to him that she was pregnant. And he took her on holiday, and they went rowing in the lake. And he came back from the rowing, but he was on his own. And he said, we talked a bit. She got up and jumped in the water. That was his excuse when, because can you imagine just like being in the lake with a person and they just talk and jump in the water and you just go, oh, well, another one gone. Just row to shore. So as it transpired, he actually had taken it out rowing and he'd hit her with a tennis racket. And then she thrown her in and she drowned. So it was a very dreadful thing, but it's provided quite an inspiration. Even in 2005, there was an opera called An American Tragedy made about this incident that happened in this particular year. So, I mean, being killed by a tennis racket, I thought she would have been called Annette. Anyway.
It was worth it, Ian. Yes. I love it. I missed it.
Oh, come on. No need to give me a serve. I'm just trying to do this. I've been stringing you along. Now, in this year, as well, are you close? What ballpark are you in at the moment, Scapper?
Fuck, it's a hard one.
It is, yeah.
Because I'm also thinking about tennis rackets now because they were wooden.
They were.
Maybe in this time.
Maybe. They were wooden up till like the 1980s.
Yeah.
So
okay. Perms though, the perm is. So perms kind of came in the 80s. But
I thought I'd give you that clue's a bit of a curly one.
An old lady asked me once, I've been asked a lot actually. Well, back when my hair was stronger and more youthful, people would ask me if I'd permed it. And I was like, lady, I'm not wearing any socks. Like, somehow I don't think perming is top of my priorities, you know.
So they're quite expensive as well.
Yeah.
I think the procedure was quite expensive. I remember the women I grew up with, the older women would all get perms.
Yeah.
It was like a big treat to go and get a perm.
So I've got I've got a feeling that it was invented before that, but then they started becoming cheaper and cheaper. Maybe, I don't know, or maybe it was the 80s. It sounds like the 80s, early 80s, maybe. What other clues was it?
I've just read Shaft Broadstem said the story about the pregnant girl being murdered was no less depressing than the Spandau Ballet story I refused to tell.
Yeah, Ian's on a real tear tonight. Give him a beer. Jesus Christ.
First music synthesizer. Grace Brown murdered. Carl Nessler with his permanent wave machine. The new town in Indiana called Gary. The statue of a brown dog attracting anti-doggers. The first legal forward passing gridiron.
Okay, that one's also, because that could have been ages ago. That could have been like the 60s or something, or the 50s. Anyway, all right, keep it going. How many more clues we got left?
We've got quite a few here I can help you out with. Okay, the first US patent for an air conditioner is granted in this year.
Oh, air conditioners.
Because
you always see fans around the 60s, like fans everywhere.
Yeah, so this is the world's first air conditioner is granted its US patent. In fact, the world's first air-conditioned building is in Liverpool, St. George's Hall. Anyway, that's another.
Like Liverpool, so they need air conditioning.
Yeah.
What, for 1 month a year?
Well, no, it was also it was a twin cycle. It actually was. The Dutch in the Netherlands, where they generally reside, they make the driving license compulsory for the first time.
Right. Oh, wow. This could have been a while back. But then the Dutch, they don't drive much. They're
True,
bike riders, aren't they? Yeah, I went
bikes
there.
and trains in the Netherlands are the go. Yeah,
One of those countries where they got a lot of stuff worked out. They're actually very bloody ahead of everybody, the Dutch.
yeah, they seem to do things first.
An ex-girlfriend that moved there, and I should have followed her there. But anyway, I'll just stick with the one I got, I guess, and probably marry her.
Hershey.
I mean, I shouldn't have followed her because of her, because of Holland. Like, you know, sounds like a good country. Did they handle COVID good, or did they just kill the old people?
Initially, they didn't. No. There's this. It's quite interesting in the Netherlands because they are like progressive in many respects, but they still have some very strange outlooks on life. But yeah, in this is a cheerful clue, Kappa, because you know Hershey, the chocolate brand in the US.
Yes.
So Hershey in this year, they opened Hershey Park, which you might know is still open as a theme park. And it was opened, Hershey Park, for the exclusive use of its employees of Hershey.
Oh, wow.
How good is that? Like,
Yeah.
you get the job, you get to go to the park.
Yeah, but like, you know, so it's so funny because people think they're getting a good deal, but really.
No, but I think which companies out there now would build an amazing park just for their employees?
That's true.
7-Eleven.
Yeah. There's this place near me and their office, I think they do those like bowling and mini golf and all that kind of stuff. And their office has a slide in it. And I can see it through the window. It's got
is that there's one in Port Melbourne, I think it's called Interactive. I think they have a slide from the third to the second floor. Yeah,
something like that. It looks really cool. It's got the big window and all that where you can check it out. Yeah, it looks really cool, but I reckon it would wear pretty thin I remember I worked at a bank once and they were like, had blackboards everywhere and they're like, you can wear thongs to work. It doesn't matter. It was like a call center bank, but it was so funny because they'd have all this stuff like Zoo Day where they bring in a little zoo and they tried to make it as fun as possible. But really, you just had to sit there and field calls and they would call you in and just put you through the ringer if you made a mistake.
Yeah.
And it all became like, I'd probably prefer it to be pretty drab, to be honest. At least you're getting in and out, you know. Like you do work at a bank, you can't. The best thing ever, though, was when we had onesie day and it just like nothing's funnier than seeing like a 56-year-old man in a Shrek onesie running around the office going, all the systems are down, like just screaming at everyone, systems are down, relax, do not touch you, like just screaming at us. It was awesome.
I do worry about all of those like things that they do to motivate staff because I kind of think, you know, you're not looking at like a petting zoo that's being brought in and just go, could you just have paid me a bit more rather than spend the money on that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes I'll bring in a comedian and you just like in a day or something, and people just want to do their work or whatever, and you're there trying to do comedy and they're like, oh, this is just interrupting our fucking day. We don't want to see this. We want to see this shit outside of work.
Yeah, they're just looking down the barrel of like KPIs and you know, getting pulled in the office on Friday or something. Yeah. It's brutal. But Hershey, yeah. So, and also I often wonder on that slide from like the second to the third floor, you know, like if somebody uses that slide, do you think the established members of staff go, he's new?
Yeah,
that's you reckon like anybody's using that slide who's an established member of staff like every day? Or do you reckon there's like a stigma attached to it that it's like, God, look at him using this slide?
Yeah, no one used, yes. Oh yeah, they loved the slide at first. Went to see all the work you get, dickhead. You won't have time to use the slide. You won't even see the street. We're using the slide at night.
Oh, we've lit up a bit about Hershey's. Elder Taco said Hershey's taste like vomit. I think that's their tagline. Stuart D went to Hershey Park in 1996, despite not being an employee, I presume.
Oh, wow.
They had the world's biggest wooden roller coaster, apparently.
Did you dress up as a chocolate bar, Stu?
I think that's round upon.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think they still do that in Holland, but yeah. So yeah, apparently at one point the roller coaster at St Kilda in Melbourne was the world's biggest wooden roller coaster, or the world's oldest. St Kilda Luna Park was it was one of the Warner brothers who set Luna Park up in St Kilda, and the Scenic Railway. It's called the Scenic Railway, isn't it? But you can only get a return.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of things. I'm getting too distracted here. Let's concentrate on the show, Ian. Right. So the Dutch make the driving license compulsory in this year, and in Paris they have the world's first hot air balloon race.
God, wow, what a crazy sport that must be. Imagine watching an air balloon overtake another air balloon. Oh my God. Would not see that coming, would you?
You know, the big flaw, and there's many in a hot air balloon, there's many flaws, but a big flaw in my mind is, you know, that people do this romantic thing where they go to like Healesville or something, and then it's like 5 a.m, and they give them a glass of champagne, and then they go up in a hot air balloon. But if you just had a glass of champagne early in the morning, there are no toilets, are there, on a hot air balloon?
Yeah, plus my friend comedian Sam Campbell had a really good joke. He's like, plus you just got the hot air balloon man just standing there. While you have your romantic moment, you just got the balloon man. Just you don't. And hot air balloon men look they may be cool guys or whatever, but I can't imagine them being the most romantic characters, you know.
Or he's just like, would you like a picture? And he just gets his own phone out.
Yeah.
Just for me. Just for me.
And you just got every time you go to make out or something.
In this year, in the city of Atlanta, there was significant race riots.
Ooh.
African Americans had become successful since becoming freed and had built up successful businesses. And in the rapidly changing city, it had caused a lot of tension. Black people still weren't permitted to be in the like council jobs at this point, and they weren't allowed to join the police force.
See, this
might help.
One of those questions where it could be 1901 or 1992.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this was in the States, right? In the States?
Well,
no.
Yeah, in the States, yeah. I was researching this, and yeah, I thought exactly the same. It was sparked by reports by the Atlanta newspaper, the biggest Atlanta newspaper, that white women had been raped and sexually assaulted by black men. Now, this is a very long-worn trope of white media to do this, to stir up. Thankfully, no newspapers in the modern day stir up racial hatred.
None of them are corrupt.
Unjustified racial hatred. So thank goodness we are in better times.
Lucky we've learned from our mistakes, and the media can be trusted.
So what happened is that the newspapers went out, and young white men started to gather in the town, and they started to attack the successful black businesses, the well-established black businesses. And the sum of it was that the riots went on right through the night. They were only dampened by a heavy rain pour, which I love that you wouldn't be determined enough to carry on through the rain. But by 2:30 a.m., very sadly, up to 30 black men were murdered, and this was reported internationally. This as a massacre. 2 white people died. I shouldn't find this funny, but one white person died in the riots, and another white person died because they opened their door of their house, saw the riots, and had a heart attack. I mean, what a way to go. What a way to go.
That's so annoying.
I mean, there's worse things on Netflix, surely.
I know, but that's a typical fucking white guy thing. Like, yeah, don't die of like being that, you know, one dies of a heart attack. Oh, what did the other guy die of? Was he opening a can or something in the riot?
Yeah, he was doing Sudoku in the newspaper.
He touched an electric fence in the riot.
Tripped
over with a fork in his hand.
He died in a hot air balloon accident. So this incident basically led to increased segregation, suppression of African American rights, and it changed the story of African Americans in the US for the following years. So I don't know whether that gives you much help with a clue, but I'm going to get down to the business end because this was hard, Kappa. So I'm going to give you a few extra clues. People can start to lock in their guesses as well, but I'll give you a couple of clues which might really help you hone in. The Petrified Forest. I don't know what the trees have seen to make them scared, but it was designated a national monument in this year.
Okay, great. Wow, Ian, thanks. Oh my God. Did you have to lay it all out for me?
There was Israel attacked Palestine.
Whoa.
They didn't. It was one of their years off. They were no. The other thing that happened was in Finland, they were the first European country to grant universal suffrage. So they gave the vote to everybody except for the poor. So
right.
You had to have a bit of cash to be able to vote. But men and women could vote under law in Finland. Also, the world's first animated cartoon was released, and the world's first feature-length film was released. So you think you've got the first music synthesizer, you've got the world's first air conditioner, the first feature-length film, the first balloon race, the Dutch first driving license, Finland are the first at universal suffrage.
God.
And it's the first Olympics to have an Olympic village and to have an opening and closing ceremony formally and separate to the games. And it was the first Olympics that they ever flew national flags when the athletes won gold, silver, or bronze.
First animated film. Well, I'm guessing that was Steamboat Mickey, right?
No, it was a film about facial gestures. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like something to do with changing faces.
Oh, so it's a whole film.
No, sorry, animated cartoon.
Whoa.
So it wasn't a film, but the world's first feature-length film was released in this year. It was actually Australian.
Yeah, Ned Kelly, right?
Yeah, the story of the Kelly gang.
Yeah, the story of the Kelly gang. Fuck, I wish I'd...
Yeah, Kelvin actually said...
Like that.
Kelvin actually said, "Am I mad, or wasn't the first feature-length film the Kelly Gang?" Yeah,
I think it was like the 1920s.
Yeah, Daniel, it was the first feature-length film, which was the story of the Kelly Gang, and also in the same year, the world's first animated cartoon was released.
Man, I'm gonna.
Do you want one more clue? I've got one more if you want.
Okay, one more.
Okay. San Francisco has an earthquake. It kills an estimated 4,000 people, and it destroyed 75% of the city. So an Olympic year, air-conditioned, earthquakes.
Let's go.
Perms, synths.
Fuck.
So many.
I'm gonna
Doggers.
take a stab in the dark here. I'm gonna take a stab in the dark. I reckon 1942.
1942.
I've got a feeling this is going to be way out.
Are you locking it in?
I'm locking in 1942.
1942. There's lots of guesses here in the chat. We've got lots of bouncing around. 1923, Craig P. 1957, Shafts Broadstem. Jared is going for 1920s. 1958, Emily. 1932, 1952, 1993, 1912. 1936, 1928, 1892. It's all over the show. So, Kappa, if you get this wrong, it's fine.
Okay, great.
1912, 1920. Yeah, Mickey's just said there's about 80 years span in guesses. So, I feel like
feeling the film thing that could be like 1910. But then I thought the forward pass thing and San Francisco, it's probably earlier. Fuck. Could be the perm and the synthesizer, because when did electricity come about? It was sad. You can't have electricity and then a perm or a synthesizer. You know what I mean? Like,
well, people's hair doesn't go curly because you electrify them.
No, but you've got to. This is when you start abusing power. When you start creating synthesizers and perms. This is when power is abused and it's just not used for lights. This is when it's.
Yeah, Carl Nessler. What was he doing to discover the perm? How did he do it? Anyway, enough about his life.
Yeah, Hershey Park. Okay, I'm just going 1942.
You've got the Atlanta race riots. Yeah. The brown dog.
Yeah.
The answer for Have a Beer Guess the Year is 1906.
Oh my God. Oh my God. 30 years out. Jesus Christ.
And I think this is the first time nobody in the chat has got this answer. I mean, 1906 is quite Craig P, 1908. Andrew got 1904. Quite an extraordinary year. Not one that's known well in the history books for anything in particular. Theodore Roosevelt was president. One of them that was a bit of an unfair clue, I thought, was the Olympics, because it was an Olympic year, but it was the Olympics was so much in its infancy that it hadn't hit that 4-year cycle. So 1906, the first Olympic Games being in 1896, should have theoretically been 4 years, and 4 years would have made it 1904. So
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and the Atlanta race riots, that is one that they refused to teach it. They disappeared on the history books for decades and decades, and it was only quite recently in the last like 10, 15, 20 years where now it's actually talked about, and they've started to mandate that students in the US are taught about that Atlanta race riots, because it was a real turning point in Black people being successful businessmen, businesswomen, being successful people in their own right in their neighborhood, and it was integrated. And sadly, as we know how history turned out, that was denied.
That wasn't. I think it was. I forget where it was, because it's covered in The Watchmen, in the TV show The Watchmen. They have this like Black Wall Street, and there were these race riots, and it's got like, you know, the Ku Klux Klan flying planes and dropping bombs in. I was like, oh yeah, wow, they must over dramatize that. But then the guy said, because I watched the making of it, he's like, no, it really happened. They're flying planes in there. Like, yeah,
that would have been it. And it's interesting that in this year as well, across a number of years, wasn't specific to this year, so I didn't include it in the clues, but there was the whole thing about tobacco, because the American Tobacco Company had a monopoly, and the other tobacco manufacturers wanted to force them to be able to sell their tobacco. It was too high price for them, and so the American Tobacco Company had a monopoly, so they just refused. And so these guys would get together and they'll do these like terrorist raids, but they basically were like dressed like Klansmen, but they weren't after African Americans. They were after tobacco and tobacco owners, but they'd do the same whole thing. They'd be riding in the wilderness and then set fire to the tobacco, cover the buildings in kerosene, and it was quite a wild time. And then you've got making of all these breakthroughs of air conditioning and feature-length film, animated cartoons. Then a San Francisco earthquake destroys 75% of the city. It's extraordinary. The muffaletta sandwich as well was also invented in New Orleans. Have you ever had a muffaletta sandwich?
No.
Sounds good. Sicilian sesame bread, olives, salami, Swiss cheese. Oh, great. And also Gary as well. I didn't know Gary was like a 1906 name.
Yeah.
It's like Gary.
Yeah. Wow, that's so weird.
But well done everybody in the chat as well. Michael was out by only 50 years. We've got, sadly, Susan wasn't with us this evening. I'm sure she would have guessed it after the second clue. Michael said he wants to hear 1906 synthesizer music.
Yeah.
So,
sure, it wasn't just someone getting electrocuted and they're screaming on it.
Yeah.
Electric chair or something.
And also things like the driver license. Yeah, Joel saying in the Netherlands, 1906, they mandated you had to have a driving license. It's quite early, isn't it, in the piece?
That's really early, yeah.
Yeah. So brilliant.
Great, guys. I'm sorry, I still can't see the chat, but thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I hope everyone has a good time, and hope to see you soon for a beer.
Stuart D as well has just corrected. Black Wall Street was in maybe Tuscan or Tulsa.
Tulsa.
So
yeah, that's right.
We'll have a look into that, but certainly
Tulsa riots. Yeah,
it is it's not a nice history.
For some reason, a few riots back then trying to prevent Black people from trying to succeed.
Yeah, I'm glad all that stopped as well.
Yeah.
That's great now that all that's come to an end. We don't have to worry about any of that. Thanks everybody.
Thanks you so everybody much.
It was so much fun. I enjoyed it a lot. We might be back next week.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Who knows? Those mystery cases. Damn you, mystery cases. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Kappa.
Bye.